This is Deborah Atkinson, and you're listening to the Voice for Fitness Professionals podcast, where I share programming, marketing, and promotion strategies that are easy, enjoyable, even fun, so you can create a business and a life you love. And today, we're diving in again to a little bit more practical application. We're really going to talk about women and how you can train them better. And this is actually the first in a series where we're actually talking about women and all phases of her life and how training is so very different. My guest today is Dr. Michelle Maddox. She received her Doctorate of Naturopathic Medicine from the Southwest College of Naturopathic Medicine in Tempe, Arizona, and her Bachelor of Science in Business Management from the University of Phoenix. She's the Director of Operations and Product for Toolbox Genomics and the founder of Soaring Phoenix, a consulting firm dedicated to educating clinicians on the fundamentals of integrative and functional medicine. She's passionate about changing the paradigm of medicine and stopping the epidemic of complex chronic disease. Dr. Maddux focuses on the areas of nutrition, integrative medicine, adolescent medicine, and eating disorders. Thanks so much for being here, Dr. Maddux.
Thanks for having me.
And we should let listeners know we are kind of collaborators, creating a course for women, kind of getting all the way through. You're actually picking up the ball to run with it, and we'll take it to the touchdown, I guess is the best way to, going from one extreme to the other.
I'll keep my dance to a minimum.
So good. So, I love this. And I know adolescent medicine and working with youth is something I think we're all interested in. And depending on where you are training or doing any health coaching in the world, you probably are working with somebody, because quite often if you're working with a family member in different age range and they gain some trust in you and with you, you very quickly then maybe asked, could you work with, this family member or that family member? So we've all probably dabbled in it. And while some trainers, though, love this age group, many wellness professionals or their bosses are terrified of working with adolescents. What would you say to change their minds?
So I tend to run into people who I tell them who I work with, and they give me this look of just horror. And adolescents and those early 20 somethings, they're actually very, very fun to work with. They are rebellious. And for people who are like-minded, regardless of how old you are, it's really fun to hook that rebellious nature. And so you can reach out to them and you can help them be the person that changes their attitude toward physical fitness and physical activity. You can help them change their attitude toward their diet. They want to rebel against their parents and society and how they were raised. And one of the best ways to do that is to point out that the majority of society is sedentary and has horrible eating habits and therefore is sick later in life. And so help coach them through funneling that rebellion into something that's actually really healthy and beneficial for them.
Very cool idea. Very awesome. So let's look deeper into, what is it like training youth and athletes? They're not just mini adults. So let's compare for listeners what it might be, say, the difference between a 13-year-old female should be doing in a workout versus a 23-year-old.
Yeah. It was interesting when I was doing some research for this course that we're collaborating on. There's this rumor that adolescents can't weight train because it stunts their growth. And, there's some science behind how that rumor got started, but that's absolutely not accurate. So, there are the growth plates, right? There's the epiphyseal plates that are still forming when people are in their adolescence up through 19 to 21 years old. And certain exercises can absolutely damage those and can be a source of injury, especially for this age group when they do like repetitive training type stuff, or they're trying to lift more weight than is appropriate for their size and their level of experience. However, you can do weight training with them. You just want to be very, very mindful about the amount of weight that you're doing and the planes of motion that they're moving in. So, you don't want to do any crazy twists and that kind of stuff with a lot of weight with this group. Interestingly, you also want to be very mindful of how you're having them stretch. You don't want to have them do stretches where they're going beyond that comfort zone, because it isn't, stretch through the pain for them. They can actually put undue stress and do damage to those growth plates through stretches, not just through weight training. For the early 20 somethings, that isn't as much of an issue. Those epiphyseal plates have closed. Those growth plates aren't really what it's about. For them, as funny as it is for us to think about who are significantly older than early 20s, even in early 20s, their metabolism's changing. And so suddenly when they were a teenager, they could eat all of this stuff and they could do all of these things and they could stay out all night or, cram for a paper. And in their 23, 24, 25-year-old female, suddenly there's ramifications of that. She can't go, have fun with her friends and do multiple birthday parties and eat all of this cake and do all these things without having some ramifications and maybe seeing a little bit of bloating in her stomach or putting on a little extra pounds. And that's not something that she's used to. So now you're helping them work through, how do I change my exercise routine to mitigate the fact that my metabolism has changed? How do I change my lifestyle to mitigate the fact that my metabolism has changed? That's something that is a completely foreign concept to, say, a 13-year-old girl.
Wow. Yeah, definitely. Okay. So, I wonder about, women working with women, men working with men, and we could go through this probably every age and stage and say, advantages, disadvantages. What is it like for, adolescents working with same or opposite sex?
So I think that there are some things across the board, regardless of the gender of the wellness professional that they're working with. With this particular age group, body image is so huge, right? They're starting to recognize that their body is different than other people's bodies. They get all of these influences from the media. And so trainers actually are really well positioned to notice things about this group that others may not notice. Typically speaking, trainers will see their clients in less clothing than anybody else does. And so the trainer will notice if they're extremely thin or if they're starting to become overweight. We don't like to talk about it, but we have to think about things that are also somewhat common in adolescence, such as cutting and doing other things that actually are harmful to their bodies. Trainers see their clients in fewer amounts of clothes, so they get to be that person who may intervene and raise a red flag or a yellow flag to the parents. As far as being a male trainer working with female adolescents and, early mid 20 somethings, that person gets to be uniquely positioned to be a very positive male role model in that woman's life or in that girl's life. They may not have that. A lot of children right now come from homes where they're raised by a single mother, or they have interesting or strange relationships with their dads. And so having a male trainer to have a positive male role model to show them and give them feedback that, being strong and being physically fit is cool and is acceptable and is something to aim for, is actually helping them have a very different outlook and a very different interaction with men. And it's a subtle little thing that I think people don't think about very much. You absolutely have to be mindful as a male working with females, right? You don't want to be alone. You want to have other people, but typically, as long as you're in like a gym or personal training studio situation, that doesn't tend to be an issue.
Yeah, I love that you hit on that actually, because in discussing and very recently I've been talking quite a bit in different podcasts and summits, and this topic has come up about the socialization that is problematic for women right now who are, 55. And I pick on that number because that's the youngest baby boomer right now is turning 55, or she is 55 already this year. And, over 50, you have probably grown up with this socialization that actually girls don't do that. Girls don't
Mm-hmm.
get breathless. Girls don't lift weights. Girls aren't
Yep.
strong, blah, blah,
Mm-hmm.
blah. And a male trainer can be a part of really changing that. I mean, and as can a female trainer portraying herself as someone who's strong as well. But yeah, I definitely hear what you're saying. But if we're going to change, that more women get to their 40s and their 50s having already been lifting weights and being very strong and vibrant, they're going to cruise through menopause and perimenopause and postmenopause and be so much healthier. So,
Yeah. And that's really what, for me, that is one of the biggest appeals of this particular age group, working with adolescents and early 20 somethings. I really feel like I get to come in and mold them and help be a positive role model and influence, so that hopefully they never have to work through those societal influences of, well, girls aren't strong, or girls don't sweat, or any of those silly things that we do see in generations that came before this one.
so good. Okay. So we want them in so we can positively influence them, and so that we can give them the right exercises and protocols to use. How do listeners who really want a niche and grow the reach in this market target them in advertising, or, target the parents?
Yeah, that's a great question. For the most part, you don't actually want to target the parents. There's one population where targeting the parents is super beneficial, and that is your athlete, right? The young athlete who's trying very hard to do the track where they get the college scholarship and potentially go pro. Typically, those parents have a little bit more influence and say so over who they train with and what activities they're doing, and the kids will go with that. For your typical 13, 14, 15-year old, just think about it, right? They're rebellious. They do not want to do what their parents want them to do. If their parents come to them and say, hey, I saw this ad for this trainer and they look amazing, the kid will absolutely dig their heels in and say, no, I'm not going to do that. So what you want to do is hook the kid. You want to hook that adolescent, and in today's society, parents are still footing the bill for a lot of early 20 somethings. So you hook them and you meet them where they're at. So, this is an age group that still has a very short attention span. It's very much, what am I putting into it and how immediately am I going to see results? So thinking about things like very definite time frame, boot camp type scenarios, but hooking something that they're into. So training for a video game, or, whatever geekery is out there, getting ready for marching band camp or something along those lines. But really and truly, unless you're targeting that hyper specific on the track to be a professional athlete group, you want to hook the kid, not the parent.
Such a great tip and great insight in making that distinction for all of you out there who are independently training. You're working for a club who's doing some marketing for you, because that may not be what they're thinking. So great insight. Thanks for that. And we could unpack a whole lot of things. We're going to unwrap some of this in the course we're designing for MedFit Network in a much deeper level. We could talk for hours about those things, but the hardest question of the day. Are you ready?
Sure.
Okay. Is there a question I should have asked you?
Mm, that is a hard question. Um, for me, I think it really goes back to something that you touched on with that very first question, which is, what about the people who are terrified to work with this age group? And the thing that strikes me about the younger generation, the teenagers and the early 20s, they are very, very good at picking up on the subtle cues of people and body language. And they are so much more intelligent and they are so much more observant than I think they get credit for. And so if you are terrified of working with this age group and you don't have that affinity, you're like, I actually would prefer to work with 10-year-olds, then do that. Right? If that's not your group, don't do it. They'll catch that about you and they will actively try to terrify you, has been my experience. Whereas if you can recognize that they're super fun to work with and it keeps you on your toes, and frankly, I feel like it keeps me young. I get to know what the cool kids are doing these days, right? Then dive in. Like, it's so much fun and so incredibly rewarding to work with this particular group.
Michelle, awesome. Thank you so much. So I am going to, for all of you listeners, I am going to place the link where you can be positioned to find out more when our course is finally done. And the way that course is being built out, Michelle, feel free to interrupt if you want to contribute something. But Michelle's module will be something that if that's it, that's your niche as far as females go, you can actually do that module all on its own. Or if you decide I'm also working with, or I want to follow them along in their lifespan and I want to work with, young women, but I also want to work with women who are just kind of at that phase in their life where they've still got to deal with a monthly cycle. They want fitness, but they're not looking at getting pregnant yet or reproduction, and they're not in perimenopause. You can go all the way through and do every module, or you can do any of them independently. So I'll link to MedfitNetwork and the place where you can be positioned to get more information as soon as the course is ready. We're going to travel together. Yeah. So we're going to be in Irvine, California, doing a 4-hour pre-con on the dates are eluding me, but I know it's early in February, 6th or 7th.
The 6th to the 9th.
Okay. So really close, but there will be some early bird registration rates going out soon. So if you're interested and you're getting this late in the fall in 2019, stay tuned and watch for that. If you've never been to a MedFit tour, it's very small. It's inclusive and exclusive both at the same time, meaning that you're sitting in a room and you are very likely at a table with one or two presenters. You get to really kind of network, talk to them, and those areas of interest are something that you're actually immersed in. You're not just watching it happen.
Yeah, I was really impressed with the MedFit conference that I went to in Seattle earlier this year, and it was such an amazing networking opportunity. I met so many wonderful people that we've kept in contact, and we've been able to kind of grow and collaborate together. It's a really great opportunity.
Fantastic. So stay tuned on that, listeners. And Fitness Pros, if you have a question that I didn't ask, please leave it below the show link at fitnessmarketingmastery.com/young women. And there's a dash between those two words. And I would so appreciate you leaving a rating in iTunes. And then check out the blog and other podcast episodes at fitnessmarketingmastery.com. And we hope to see you at a MedFit Network tour in 2020.